Hello and welcome to Triumph After Abuse. Today is, I do believe, the 4th of April 2025. It's Friday, and I've decided to do Family Fridays. This is in no way bashing anybody, just simply the facts and, well, perhaps how I feel about stuff. and maybe to gain some understanding and let you know where I'm coming from. I should kind of do a disclaimer, I think. I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or counselor. I'm just somebody who's navigated my way through abusive relationships in my life for the last over 5 decades. So I have a little bit of experience with people of a certain ilk. Anyway, so spoke about my mom uh, a little bit earlier. I dedicated the channel to her. Family Fridays, I'm not dedicating to anybody, by the way. So, um, my mom was born August 1st, 1934, in a little town called Minihick in Alberta, Canada. The town's so old, it's not even called that anymore. I do believe they changed the town's name to Buck Lake. Um, I don't know. I don't know her family at all. Uh, I went out there and visited with them for my uncle's wedding almost 20 years ago. I thought they were all super nice, but I never knew my grandparents. I also went out there. I think I was like a year and a half. There's pictures of, my brother and sisters and my dad with mountains in the background. So I'm suspecting we visited and I was like a very small toddler. So I suspect I was a year and a half. Because my mom was so far away from her family, like, she didn't really discuss them. I knew they existed, um, but she didn't discuss her life at all. In fact, she didn't really discuss anything at all. Um, I wasn't in a way, like, now that I'm older and I understand the psychology of bonding, parent to child and stuff, I wasn't bonded with my family at all. I spent the first 6 weeks of my life in a hospital, the hospital for sick kids in Toronto. And so I didn't bond with anybody, unfortunately. I don't know whether or not that, I'm sure that changed my experience compared to my siblings, perhaps. And I also am the last of four children and was reminded often uh, that I was not only, you know, child number four, I was daughter number three and accident number two. That was made very clear. So I took it as I wasn't wanted, like doubly and triply not wanted, because they had a king's family, which was my brother and my sister, and that's all they wanted, and that was like the perfect family. So it's difficult to grow up in a house where you're constantly reminded where, like, that you weren't ever wanted. So that we have to be careful how we speak to our children. Uh, Even if you think it's a joke, like, it's not funny to the child, and they could develop a complex, right? Anyway, so she was born in a small town called Minihick. I do believe it's called Buck Lake now. My uncle and aunt still live there. I have four male cousins on that side, and I have two uncles and two aunts. and like two aunts that they're married to. Um, and they're all super, super nice people. I grew up my whole life being told I was weird. You're weird. Like I have a bizarre sense of humor. I'm really hyper and stuff like that. You wouldn't know it, I don't think, but anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty hyper. So when I went out there when I was 29 for my uncle's wedding, I, you know, met my cousins and my family and went, oh my God, these are my people. Like, they get me. They don't judge. They're accepting. They're super nice. Um, I was floored, actually. And my one cousin, the oldest of his family, and I'm one of the youngest of, well, I am the youngest of my family. Like, we hit it off really well. I felt like we were two peas in a pod. We even drove the same car, except his was white and mine was blue. It was just pretty wild. Anyway, um, so I got to know more about my mom's upbringing during those 10 days that I was out west than I had my entire lifetime from my mom. We I saw well, I guess it would be a house, where she was born. It was like a little log cabin, and that the midwife lived at. So that was really cool. I got to visit the, homestead where my grandparents laid down roots in Alberta way, way, way back. And I thought that's really cool because they're, literally pioneers back then. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I don't know what kind of relationship she had with her parents. I remember her telling me that when she was young, she was basically expected to get married, have kids, like no career, that's your life, and that's what's expected of you, right? And I can understand that way back when. Um, she basically was like, she had to go to high school. I think they all did back then. There was no high school around, so she went and lived with a family in Edmonton and went to high school in Edmonton. I don't know whether or not her parents, I'm thinking it was her mom, but I don't think her mom was thrilled with the idea. I might be wrong, but that's just the impression she gave me. And then she joined the Air Force after high school. She dated a guy called, in high school, I remember seeing her yearbook, and she showed me um, a picture of this guy who she dated, and his name was Daryl Mayowich. And he ended up being like a television game show host in, I do believe, probably Toronto. And he changed his name to Mike Darrell. So I thought that was pretty cool. Like, I remember seeing him on TV, and that's like a guy that my mom dated when she was like 15 or 16 or something. So that was pretty cool. Um, anyway, so uh, they were farm people, like, took, I think they were out in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if she was close to her brothers or not. Um, I don't know, being the only girl, maybe she wasn't. She was the oldest. I don't know. I honestly don't know anything about her younger life. So she joins the Air Force. She meets my dad in the Air Force. Like, she had been to Germany, stationed over there. She knew how to speak German. I think that's pretty cool. She was independent and, you know, obviously she'd have to be confident. That's not the woman I knew growing up. But so she went and did her own thing. She met my dad, and literally 3 months later, they were married. I don't even know what year they were married. So, like, my dad never spoke of her really. Um, I remember seeing pictures, like anniversary pictures and stuff. I just remember so very little when I was younger. Um, like I said, this is in no way bashing anybody. I understand the position and how she felt. I understand that now. I didn't understand that when I was young. Um, she was an alcoholic. She was obviously frustrated, depressed, angry. I don't know exactly how she was feeling by the time I had grown up and remembered stuff. I uh, I was scared of her because she liked to hit. So it could be anything. I remember one time saying God, like out loud, like God. And she backhanded me full force across the face. I think I was 15. Um, and I just pushed her. Pushed her as hard as I could. I was so reactive and angry with her. And I was like, don't ever hit me again. And I think that's about almost the last time I spoke with her as a teenager. I held a grudge for a very long time. And I wish I hadn't really. But anyway, uh, my dad left the home when I was 11, and she stopped drinking around then. I think that, like, the tension in my house disappeared when my dad left. I'll get into my dad in a later episode. Um, so uh, and there was she had her own business, and so she was doing well. She got her stuff together. I think that it was a relief when my dad left. It was such a different household. And anyway, so she had a business. She was always busy. I didn't really have parents growing up, and I had a lot of friends' parents who were very generous with their um, invitations for dinner and stuff. Like, I don't remember really anybody cooking for me ever. Um, my family was just very separated emotionally and physically. My brother bought his house when I was 6. So he left. It was like he was more like an uncle. I know that sounds insulting, but I don't mean it to be. We just didn't grow up in the same environment, or you know what I mean? Even though we had the same parents, I think they were a lot different when he was little than when I was little. And my sister, my oldest sister, had she was in a horrendous car accident when she was in September 25th, 1982. Um, and she was in the hospital for about 7 months in Sunnybrook in Toronto. And then she was at Riverdale or Riverside. I think it's called Riverdale. It's a rehabilitation hospital um, for a number of months before she came home. She was, I think, 98 pounds when she had her accident. Like, she's 4'11". I have a really short family. um, she's 4'11", and she was 98 pounds. And during her stay in the hospital, she had lost 30 pounds. So she was pretty skeletal. she came home for Christmas, and the next year we were looking at photo albums like it was like a mind test for her, and she was naming everybody in the photo album, and she couldn't recognize herself in the pictures because that's how much weight she lost. Like, she just looked awful, um, like a walking skeleton. So anyway, back on to my mom. So um, what I know is that my dad was an abusive person. My mom was an abusive person. They were both alcoholics, and they didn't have a good relationship from what I saw. Like, the last 10 years of their relationship was awful. They never spoke with each other. If they did speak with each other, it was late at night when they were drinking, and they were screaming and yelling and calling names and saying horrible things about their lives, and they wish their children weren't around. Not all their children, just the two youngest, which I happen to be one of them. So that never made anybody feel good. And it was pretty bad. I think she was alone for a while after my dad left. And then she met a guy. I think I was, well, yeah, I was 16. She met a guy, and he basically, whisked her off her feet. And then she moved in with him, and she basically invested all her money into their life together. Even though they weren't married, there was no like signed contract, financial contract between them or anything like that. In Canada, there's lots of hurdles about common law marriages and whatnot. Anyway, she basically invested everything she had in their life together, which all was under his name. The place in Florida, the place in Oshawa. And so I literally saw my mom a handful of times in 7 years. She moved in with him when I was 17. I wasn't done high school, so I was on my own. And she moved in with him, and I had to drop out of school when I ran out of money to survive, get a job. Actually, I got 2 full-time jobs at 2 different restaurants. And yeah, it wasn't, I didn't think it was the best decision for her to make, either for her or myself. And I thought maybe she could have stuck around for a year till I was done school, but I guess not, right? So she lived with this guy for 7 years, and eventually ended up in her demise through her choice that she made. So I didn't know how really truly messed up her relationship with the next person was. It just, the aftermath of her death was awful, actually. And I'll get into that in another episode. But she did pass away September 11th, 1992. So, and she was, a mom and she just became a grandma 2 years prior. Her brother had just come to see her a month or two before she passed away. So, and when somebody is struggling that much, I did not know, even though I only saw her a handful of times. It was, we spoke with each other on the phone, not often, but we spoke with each other on the phone. I was supposed to come see her on Monday. And, she was gone. In the car, in the garage, in case you're wondering. So I was really angry with her. And I understand perhaps she felt, she was destitute financially because Buddy probably didn't said F you and I'm not giving you a bloody thing and you're not leaving me type thing. There's a lot to that story. And I yeah, I understand that she probably felt like she hadn't created a nest from her prior life in which she could return. And she didn't. So I understand that she probably felt like she had no alternative. She had nowhere to go. She had no, as far as I know, I never knew her to have any real friendships. She was completely and totally isolated with this guy. So try not to get yourself in that position. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your friends. Reach out to your friends. Somebody cares. Reach out to your family. Try to build a support system around yourself. Try to maintain a support system around yourself if you're in a situation where you think that you're not safe. Anyway, this was Family Friday. And there's a lot of family stuff to discuss. And I will do this every week. Thank you very much for watching. Send it to somebody you think would benefit from hearing this. And like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thanks so much. Have a great day. See you next time.